named Robert and Georgia. They are having problems with infertility, and they've been trying to conceive a child for over 1.5 years. So we've taken it upon ourselves to help and try to explain and attempt to help this couple as to why they can't have a child, or possibly help them have a child. So we're going to get going. Thank you very much.
How old are you?
I am 48.
Do you smoke drugs, cigarettes, or chew?
I only choose occasionally.
Do you drink alcohol?
Mostly Pabst Blue Ribbon.
How many times a week do you drink?
3-4 times on average, maybe.
How many parties have you, or how many partners have you had in the last year?
Only my wife.
What is your job occupation?
Well, I'm currently attending the college with my wife.
What was your previous job occupation?
Well, I was largely a range hand, but for the latter part of my working career, I worked mainly on oil rigs.
Did anyone in your family ever have cancer?
Just my father, it was oral cancer.
Okay. When did your father die?
About the time I was the age of 20.
Okay, do you have any STDs?
Nope.
Do you take any prescription medication?
No, just an ibuprofen from time to time.
When was the last time you were checked for STDs?
I've never been checked.
Have you died or hurt your genitals?
Well, from the age of 14 to 18, I rode bowls a lot of the time, and when I was 30, I was in a motorcycle accident that handlebar hit my crotch.
Okay, have you ever used drugs?
I smoked marijuana from the age of 20 to 25.
Okay, how much do you exercise?
4 to 5 times a week.
How long have you been sexually active?
About 30 years of my life.
How much are you sexually active a week?
With my wife, usually 3 to 4 times.
Okay. Did you use protection in your previous relationships?
I use condoms consistently.
Okay. And what kind of pants do you wear?
What do you mean?
Because some pants can affect your genital area.
You mean like the tightness?
Yes.
Well, I mostly wear a ring.
Okay, go.
How old are you, Georgia?
I'm 21 years old.
Do you have any life-threatening disease?
No.
When was your first sexual encounter?
When I was 18.
Have you had any surgeries on your genitals?
I have had no genital surgery.
How many times a week do you exercise?
About 3 to 4 times.
Any prescription drugs?
Nope.
Do you smoke?
Nope.
Any drugs?
Nope. I mean, I get a little bit of tobacco residue after my husband kisses me, but what can I do?
How is your period? How is it?
I have a pretty normal period.
Any injuries?
No.
How many partners have you had?
My whole life, or like
Your whole life?
2.
How many partners have you had in the past year?
1.
How is your diet?
I have a pretty healthy diet. I have a home cooked meal almost every night, although sometimes I go out to eat because I'm weak. I love potato tots.
Have you had any STDs?
Yes.
What STDs?
I had chlamydia
When?
when I was 18.
And about when did you get it treated?
I didn't find out I had it until 9 months after, so about 9 months after I got treated.
How long were you and your first partner together?
About 6 months.
Any depression?
I'm just sad that I can't have a baby. But other than that, no diagnosed mental illness.
What you have just seen is an interview between us interns and Robert and Georgia. As you have heard, they are pretty normal. There was a little damage with Georgia, but yeah. Our stars are cat and doctor. Next.
Next is Jacob and Keaton with male reproductive system enzyme.
And Ian. What do you got there, Jacob? Talk to us about it. Start with the testicles and let's work our way out from there. You got it. Tell us a little bit, can you identify the testicles? Good things. And what is their responsibility? Okay. And then where would the sperm go from that point? Excellent. And what is the job of the vas deferens? Good. Tell us a little bit about the seminal vesicle. Are those vesicles able to add anything to the sperm, Jacob? Excellent. And then what would be the next stop? Okay. Good things. And with the penis, what is involved in order to deliver sperm and the semen out of the male body? Perfect. All right. Go ahead and I'll let you pass it on to Keaton.
Okay, so sperm and semen aren't the same thing. Some people have a misconception that they are, but semen is a broader picture of sperm. Sperm just has to do with a small portion of semen, but semen, excuse me, semen is made up of 4 different parts. So first, the more important part, the part that fertilizes the egg, is the sperm. Is the sperm. So the sperm actually only consists of 2 to 5%. So we're just going to say 4%, give or take a percent. So you have 4% on average of semen and sperm. And then the next part is where the sperm gets its energy and its drive, I guess, or the powerhouse. And that you get from the seminal vesicle, which the majority of what the seminal vesicle gives it the sperm is fructose. That's where it gets its main source of its energy. But it gets it from a few other things. You can get it from amino acids and enzymes and proteins and a few vitamins. But for now, we can say fructose gives it, has to do with 65 to 75% of the semen. So we're just going to say 70% on average for now. And then the next part, after the seminal vesicle, goes straight to the prostate. And the prostate gives it its shield against the vagina's acidic nature. So the prostate gives it zinc and citric acids and sodium and calcium. But the main part is the zinc. And that has to do with just about the rest of it. It has to do with 25 to 30%. But on average, we're going to say 26%, so it's easy to add 24. But so There's one more part that is very minimal, but it has an important role in semen. It comes from the bulbourethral gland, which is immediately after the prostate. But the bulbourethral gland gives it something called, or a general term called mucus. But like I said, that has a very minimal portion of semen. It actually only has less than 1%. And so all of these 4 things make up semen. So now we're gonna go and make a little analogy that most people know, or most people understand. We're gonna make an analogy with football. So we're gonna say you have on offense, you have your lineman, you have your lineman here, and you have your quarterback, you have a fullback, and a halfback. So you have the football. We're going to call the football the sperm for now. You have the football. That's your sperm. So the center hands it off to the quarterback, and the quarterback is going to make it so the sperm can mature. This is like when the sperm goes straight from the testicles to the epididymis, which just runs down the back side of the testicles. The epididymis is where the sperm can mature. And so then the quarterback is going to hand it off to your halfback. The halfback is going to be like the fructose. It's going to give it its energy and its drive to move forward. And then your fullback is going to protect the sperm from being destroyed, I guess, for lack of better terms, from the acidity of the vagina. So you have, and the fullback will lead the sperm and the fructose to the touchdown and the egg, and you make babies. So now we're going to do a little activity and get an even better understanding of this. So I'm going to need 3 volunteers to come up to the front. Anybody want to be a volunteer? Or we can just, alright, great, we got 1. We need 2 more. Dad, I'm going to pick on you. I'm picking on you. Okay, thank you. So I need one of you. Let's have you. Let me stand right here. You're going to be the fullback, and you can be the quarterback, or the center. So you can be the center and stand right here. You can go and turn around. You're going to be the quarterback. So this is going to be our sperm. This is going to be our sperm cell. I'm going to ask you to hold this.
Okay.
Thank you. And so when the quarterback says hike, that's going to be like the ejaculation. So when he says hike, sperm goes out of the prostate and says, or the prostate says, be on your way, go make babies. So go ahead and hand it off to the quarterback.
Here you go.
This is where it matures and makes it so it can fertilize the egg and makes it so you can make babies. Without the sperm maturing, it cannot successfully fertilize the egg. So the quarterback then hands it off to the halfback. And the halfback, fructose, the energy, and the powerhouse, is going to be protected by our zinc that we get from the prostate, and that's going to protect it from any of the acidic nature or acidity of the vagina. Thank you. You guys can go ahead and sit down. Let's give a round of applause for our volunteers. Okay, so now we had Kat and Logan and Chantel and Katie tell you a little bit about our well, Adam's going to tell us about our semen analysis that we got from Robert.
Okay, so if you could pass those so everyone gets one. Okay, so now that we have got an understanding of what semen is and sperm, I'm going to be talking about how we did a test on Robert's semen to check how viable it was. or how, and okay. So, one of the things we test for is viscosity, which is the rate that the semen would liquefy at. So, the viscosity is measured on a scale from +1 to +4. The hoped range is a +1, or desired range is a +1. Robert, on his semen analysis, got a +1. Okay, so the next thing we tested for was appearance, which is the appearance of the semen. So generally you want it to be a grayish, maybe a bit of opaque color. Robert had gray and opaque semen. Okay? So next is the volume, which is the amount of semen he produced in a single ejaculate. So the volume that, the average volume is 2 millimeters plus. So if you have under 2 millimeters, you're a bit under the standard. For Robert, he got 5 milliliters. Next, the next thing we did was cell count, which is how many sperm cells per how many million sperm cells per milliliter. And the average is around 20 million sperm cells per milliliter, which it's better if you have more to a certain point when there's, but if it gets overpopulated. So for Robert, he got 55 million sperm per milliliter on average. Motility, which is also another thing we check for, is how much of the sperm's actually moving around. So the average is 50%. The higher it is, the more movement from the sperm and the more they're moving. So for Robert, he got a 90% on motility, which is really good. Okay? Sorry. So, and then one more thing we test, two more things we test for, forward progress, which is whether the sperm actually have a sense of direction. Because if they're just going in circles, they're never actually going to be able to go and fertilize an egg. So the forward progress is very important. So it's on a scale from +1 to +4, similar to the viscosity. So on this one, the normal is 2+, and Robert got a 3, which is slightly better than a 2+. Okay, and then the final one is sperm morphology, which is sperm, how they're formed, like a regular sperm. Okay, so the average is 15% typical. Or anything above that is good. So Robert got a 89% typical, which is really good, meaning most of his sperm are regular. Okay, so now that we've got all of the things that we tested for the sperm analysis, I will be showing you how much sperm we produced. We'll be using milk. So this is a graduated cylinder measuring up to 10 milliliters and a pipette to withdraw the milk. Okay, so get 5 milliliters. Okay, so this is 5 milliliters of, in this case we will be calling it semen. So this is how much semen we got from the test that George gave us, or Robert. Okay, so from Robert. So now, just think. Okay. Okay, so this is 1 milliliter of semen. So to think that since sperm is only about 5% of that, so maybe like just like this right here, all of that would be the sperm out of this whole milliliter. To think 55 million cells just in that small amount. Pretty amazing, hey? Okay. Also, back to the sperm morphology. So the normal sperm cells should have I'd say almond-shaped head, and then a tail that's in congruency of its head. Some atypical sperm can have a regular head, but 2 tails, which will make it so that it can not go in a certain direction, because the tails won't work together well. Another one is they can have a double head, excuse me since my joint's not amazing, okay, and a single tail, which is another type. They can also have abnormally large heads and small tails, or small heads and long tails. Okay, well, since all of George Roberts' results since all of Roberts' results are looking above average or average, we see no further reason to test him for any diseases, and we believe his sperm is viable for having a child and conceiving conception. Okay, now that we've talked about the semen analysis of Robert, it is Cat and Doc Logan Fox up next.
Okay.
You can spill it all over the table.
Okay, so Logan and I are in charge of the female reproductive system and the hormones that go with it. And we decided to play a little Jeopardy game with you. And it's going to be Jeopardy-ish, because some aspects of Jeopardy I don't really like, so I changed it. So, if you guys could split up into even groups, that'd be delightful. And if not, I can do that for you, because there is 10 of you that can play. There's 2 little ones. No, you guys cannot play since you know the answers.
We'll do the 3 there and us. Okay. Oh yeah, and you got a doctor on each side.
Okay, what's the groups?
These 2 and us 3.
And then us 5. Okay. Alright, so how we're going to do this is, every group will get to pick what question in turns, instead of, whoever gets it right gets to pick the next one.
Yes, please.
So the first person to raise their hand, we'll try to do our best of our ability to find out who did that, and we'll pick on you for each group. And with that, we shall begin.
But Cat.
Oh, and Logan will be drawing everything up there
Yeah, I'll give you a little illustrated demonstration.
of the female reproductive system while we go along. So,
Who's team 1 and team 2?
It consists of those 5 over there. And
this will be team 1.
These 5.
Right here, team 1, and this will be team 2. So team 1, you're going to pick the first question.
Go ahead. Organs.
Organs? For how much? 100? Okay. What fibrous muscular tubular tract acts as a receptacle for the penis during intercourse? Yeah, the vagina. You are correct. Woo!
Team 1.
All right, team
Trying to
2.
draw to the best of my ability because I'm such an artist. And this will just be piece by piece. Come on, please. Yes. And then she's in the house.
Team 2, question? Can you see?
Yeah, Kat, let's land you either, maybe you'll have to either crowd Isaac out or crowd Franklin
Over
out.
here.
There you go.
Logan, so you guys can pick. Since Oregon's taking
Let's do hormones for 100.
hormones for 100. What is the primary hormone being released during the menstrual cycle? Yes.
Estrogen.
You're right! Woo! 100 points for team 2. Alright, team 1.
Oh, we switch?
Yep, that's how I'm gonna do it, so it's fair. Because yesterday, team 1 gotta go forever.
We'll go across, yeah, we'll go with the menstrual cycle for 100.
Okay. What is the average amount of days in a menstrual cycle?
28. I do not.
Right, you guys are good at this. Gosh, they made them harder. You can just write in a or do that. Math.
Like making it.
Alright, team 2.
Organs 200.
What muscular organ holds the fetus during gestation?
The uterus.
Yes.
What is the uterus?
Yeah, woo! Okay.
Don't mind if I'm doing
300.
that.
300.
I know that.
Okay. Team 1, your turn. What hormone builds up the endometrium?
What is progesterone?
Sorry. It's actually estrogen. Estrogen's released during the menstrual cycle to help build up the endometrium within the uterus to hold the baby once the egg is fertilized. So, all right. Team 2. Menstrual cycle 200. At what point does the cycle begin? Hey, do you know? The first one?
I was gonna ask the baby.
You guys are right. Alright, team 1.
Oh, that was team 1. Yeah. Sorry, I'm dragging my toes.
Not right.
Menstrual cycle for 400, please.
I know. Oh, you guys are. What endocrine structure controls the decreased release of estrogen and progesterone roughly at the 16th day of the menstrual cycle? No? Nobody knows? No guesses? Either?
CL?
Corpus.
CL.
You guys are right.
Good job.
Gotta be in team 1.
Let's give it to team 2
Alright, sorry.
since they got that right.
Yeah, but I didn't know, we would have answered it.
Eventually.
Well, no, I didn't know that they had an option.
Oh, I was waiting for you guys and I was gonna get to them.
I'm sorry, my.
Switch over.
I just said because I thought nobody was speaking.
500 and 400 make that 900. Okay, you guys got your points. We're good. Math has been done. All right. Team 2.
Okay.
All the 300s are still there, and the 400s on the hormones and organs are still there.
Organs? You said organs for 4, so.
What causes the endometrium to shed?
Looking cheap, smart. Yeah, no.
Final answer?
Follicle dysfunction?
This one?
I don't know, we've had all the same, one of each of them, so I don't know.
First one.
First one? You guys are right.
Nice work. Yes.
Roger, team 2. All right, team 1.
What is that?
Do the organs for 300.
Sorry if my head's in the way of the call.
What organ squeezes out the endometrium during the menstrual period? You guys are right. Even though it won't tell you, you're right. You guys are.
We want to see it. That would be reassuring.
Team 2. The 300s on menstrual cycle and hormones are still there, and then the 400 on hormones.
300 hormones.
How many hormones are involved in the menstrual cycle? Three. Is that a unanimous decision for the 3? You want to run with that? Okay. Ah! Isaac, go back.
We're having
broke
technical
it.
difficulties here at the moment, people. Sorry about that.
Alright, you guys are wrong. I'm sorry.
Why?
It's actually 4, and I'll explain them later. Somebody picks the 400 hormones. Team 1.
It's not
400 hormones?
Organs.
Alright, what are the hormones involved in the menstrual cycle?
And simply ask if you need an explanation for what those abbreviations mean.
The top first one.
First one? You guys are right! So there are 4. Alright, so team 2, there's only one left, so I'm going to choose for you. And that is, what is the average age in which a woman reaches menopause in the United States?
48.
48? You guys are wrong. It's actually 51 in the United States.
Wow.
And that is it. Thanks you guys for playing, and Team 1, you won. Next we have, who's next? Angelo and Isaac with the costs and treatments.
Okay, we will be performing basically a live skit.
About the cost of laparoscopy and what chlamydia is.
Yeah, we'll be explaining the costs and talking about some of the treatments that are possible for Georgia to undertake. But Georgia's not here, so I'm speaking with her.
She's sick.
I'm walking in the door. This is the door.
It's no bueno.
Oh, hello, Robert. I thought Georgia would be here today.
Unfortunately, she couldn't make it, but she told me she was feeling pretty bad.
Well, that's all right. We have her test results.
Well, is she okay? What's the deal?
Well, I mean, as you know, Georgia had chlamydia, and it was untreated for over 9 months. This might be the reason that you are having problems with conception.
I know she had chlamydia, but I really don't understand it. Why is this a problem?
Well, chlamydia is a bacteria, and it infects women through the vagina, as it is an STD. It travels through the cervix, and then finally it reaches the fallopian tubes. And this is where the real damage is done. Untreated chlamydia, it will cause scarring to the fallopian tubes, as well as a disease known as pelvic inflammatory disease. And if we would have known this earlier, we could have treated this chlamydia with antibiotics, for example. But symptoms like burning sensation during urination, rectal pain, or the possibility of painful sex are all symptoms of chlamydia. But it's really not that uncommon for women to not know, as only 30%, or there's only a 30% chance of a woman even having symptoms. And it is also the most common STD in the U.S. So.
Is there any way we can treat this? Because Georgia mentioned about something about laparoscopy.
Well, as I said before, it was untreated for a long time. We could have given her antibiotics. However, at this point in time, laparoscopy is one of the ways we can treat it.
Well, yeah, I know what laparoscopy is. She told me about it's a procedure that uses a tube to put through a small incision in the stomach to look at the abdominal and pelvic organs. It helps find things like cysts and adhesions, fibroids, and also some infections.
Well, that's quite an explanation. You seem to know your stuff.
Well, she talks. Let's just go with that.
Alright, well, I mean, a laparoscopy is a complex procedure, and it ranges anywhere from $1,700 to around $2,500.
We're just college students. We ain't exactly pulling much bank here.
Well, there are other treatments. We could perform HSG, which is basically an x-ray of the uterus and female reproductive organs. It gives a basic assessment of whether or not the fallopian tubes are obstructed.
How does it work? Because I don't want my wife going through a whole procedure like this.
Well, basically, we ask the patient to lie down as if she were having pap smear. We place a speculum inside the vagina, and we visualize the cervix. The doctor would then clean the cervix, and a catheter would be inserted until the tip is in the uterine cavity, and then a small balloon would be inflated to keep the catheter in place.
Okay, listen, stop. I get it. Thank you.
Fair enough. However, this procedure is much cheaper than the laparoscopy. It averages to around $650.
That sounds much better, but what are the risks involved then?
It's very uncommon, but the woman might be allergic to the dye that we use in the procedure. However, it is generally a very safe procedure. If it doesn't work, we have other options. In vitro fertilization or a laparoscopy might have to take place.
Well, I guess I should be getting back to Georgia and tell her about what we talked about today, Doctor. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Robert. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you very much. Now we will be, the next people who will be going is Ian and Franklin of, what?
Yeah, basically. I'm going to use Dr. Fox's little drawing to explain what an HSG is. I guess we'll use a green. So, as he said, a catheter will be placed through the cervix, so basically, yeah. And a dye will be injected, and then while the dye is in there, they will place an x-ray, and they will x-ray it because it's an iodine-based dye, so it will show up on x-rays. A good healthy open tube, the fluid would flow over here and then spill out into an open cavity. But a closed tube, let's say this one's closed, the dye will just build up here, and that's basically it. So that's a good one when it's open in the open cavity, and when it's blocked, it will not go through. This is it's kind of an idea, not as accurate, or it's accurate, but can't tell you exactly what's wrong as a laparoscopy can. But for people who are pinched for cash, that is one way to go. Franklin?
So, one of the treatments after you do the laparoscopy for inserting the camera to look around is sallopian gastronomy. And I have a video on this. Okay, so the video is going to go through the whole procedure of the surgery, and I'll pause it periodically and describe what is going on. So what they're doing is they're showing you that there's blood in there, which is caused by the scar tissue. So they're going to go and suck it out so it doesn't get in the way of the surgery. As they form it. It looks kind of violent, but you're unconscious during this procedure, so. So this is what your normal ovary would look like. It's nice and thin and does not have any inflammation of scar tissue. And so a ovary or a fallopian tube that would have the scarring tissue would look more inflated, and the scarring tissue would build up and block the tube. So what they're doing here is they're inserting a needle, inflating it to kind of spread things apart and make a gap in there so they can get their tools in without damaging something that they potentially don't want to be damaged. Now they're going to take and cut it open using an electrical surgical instrument, and it cauterizes the wound at the same time, causing a little bit less bleeding. I guess it's a little bit more practical in the scalpel in this situation. It gets a wider gap opening, and like I said, it would cauterize the wound. Sort of, but a little bit more high tech. So then they suck out the blood. So again, it gets them less stuff in the way. And then they're going to use an external pressure to push it out so they don't actually go inside the ovary, causing less internal damage. So they're going to hold the fallopian tube in one spot, push with the other, and then they're going to pinch it and pull it out very gently. It's just scar tissue. It's not really attached to anything. What was attached was either kind of cut by the soldering iron, I guess you could call it, and then let loose. And then they can just pull it out. Move the fallopian tube. And then they'll go. And they put on this ointment and stuff that can help to clean out the wound. And it will also help in healing later on, right before they sew it back up. You can remove this within a minute or two after they've applied it onto the fallopian tube. Once you're done, you're going to have a more open fallopian tube. And then, so what was happening was your fallopian tube would be, normally it would be open, but it would have a block someplace. So if you can imagine looking down through a straw, you would have these little membranes holding scar tissue in place, which is all red. So what they were doing was they were cutting it out. Okay, so once you cut it all out, or cut it open and pull everything out, it'd be a lot more clear. There would still be stuff left over, but there wouldn't be as much scar tissue, and the eggs could then come and pass through the fallopian tube. Okay, there's also another procedure using a Chinese herbal holistic approach. And the Chinese have used herbs for hundreds and thousands of years, if you want to go far enough back. But basically there's 7 steps to getting your baby. Has an 82% success rate and only costs $891, as opposed to the other treatment, which varies around $3,000. The first step involves herbal tampons, which will help to break up the scar tissue and kill infections. The second step is a follow capsule, which boosts your sex drive and helps to increase the fertility rates. The third step uses a massage DVD that you can perform yourself to help break up the scar tissue and strengthen the fallopian tubes. There's also fertility yoga DVD involved, where it will help to stimulate the... One second, I'm sorry about this. It's the whole, spot in the brain that helps to stimulate the sexual hormones, and it will also help to stretch the fallopian tubes out to separate and break up the scar tissue again. Also, it's very important stress management, because if you really stress out, it can mess with that spot in your brain. It will also cause muscle spasms in your fallopian tubes, which potentially brings your rate for having a baby down. And then it's backwards, but the body cleansing is where it helps your liver to recycle the hormones, and it will also help to get rid of infections inside of your body. The relaxing CD will help to keep your mind calm. So if you're not calm, you have these things in your brain, and your brain's gonna be all wavy. It will disrupt this connection of helping those hormones be active. You can also use, with increasing your diet, these anti-proxy plus capsules, which will help to increase your eggs, and they also include 14 different superfoods to help your diet just be healthier in general, which will also make your baby healthier. The other things you can do are eat raw fruits and vegetables, broccoli, bananas, salads, anything that is more natural and raw. You can also use an IVF or in vitro fertilization, where they will go and take the egg out of the womb.
Go ahead and hit that. There you go. And you may have to hit it again, but it will boot up for you. Yep. And go ahead and hit your play. Should be good.
Okay.
Try your volume out.
So they're inserting a needle to extract the eggs.
The remarkable egg that begins human life is a single cell, no wider than a hair, barely visible to the eye.
Most people have no idea how small a cell is. If I crudely scraped the inside of my mouth, I have about 10,000 cells under my fingertip. These things are really small. You can't see that without a microscope. And yet that can make a human. See how amazing this is?
One by one, 27 precious eggs are retrieved. When the safety of the eggs is assured, sterile semen is collected. Embryologist Bob Prosser will filter out the dead and less healthy sperm.
Okay, this is the before sample. It has not been processed. And so from this, we can compare this with the post-processing sample. You can see that the sample is much cleaner. Almost all of the sperm are motile. And they look like happy campers.
So they're using a microscope. They're going to inject a needle with the sperm into the egg, which will show in a second. And it's
Dr. Prosser positions the egg, magnified 400 times, and readies the single sperm he has selected from a pool of hundreds. The sperm is injected, and the critical moment for fertilization arrives. Like a great celestial director, he repeats the procedure, guiding sperm to another egg.
So, and then they'll, after that is done, they'll take the eggs and place them inside the uterus on the womb, which we talked about earlier, which is inside the uterus, the lining, and then the pregnancy will be normal from there. So that is a presentation. Any questions or comments?
Go to James.
Oh, yeah.
Question and answers.
Q&A.
Franklin, they said that the doctor did that 27 times?
No, they would have done it for most of the eggs, because some of the eggs would have not been viable, because they have no way to tell which eggs are good, which eggs are bad when they extract them. So they would only have put the sperm into the eggs that were good.
Okay, and then, so let's say there were 10 good ones.
Yeah.
And the doctor's gonna put 10 eggs back in the one?
They would go and they would freeze or store some of the other ones for later if the pregnancy was not as successful. and then they would go and they would repeat the process again if they wanted to.
So does he only put one fertilized egg?
They can put in 1, 2, or 3 depending upon how many you want.
The reason they store them in the freezer and do that is because it's a very expensive process, like $20,000.
Also for the in vitro, not all of the eggs get fertilized, so the way they tell if it does, that the egg gets like a dimple on it, and that means it's been fertilized. So some of the eggs that they inject sperm into may not get fertilized.
So those just get thrown away, or they still get?
They're no
injected?
longer viable, so.
But those have already been, no, didn't you say that only the fertilized eggs get put back into one?
Only the ones, if they chose to have 1, 2, 3.
Generally choose the ones that will.
The best eggs.
Yeah.
So out of like the 10 that might have been fertilized, there was 5 good ones. So they would keep the 5 good ones and put like 2 or 3 in.
Normally, the doctors recommend putting 2 or 3 in because that will give it more of a chance. But sometimes all 3 or however many eggs, like Octomom, she had 8 eggs fertilized, and usually it can be all the eggs or just 1, or sometimes even none. Attach themselves to the Materian lining and.
Either is fine.
Any other questions?
Could you all qualify, you did in fact test Georgia to see if there was tubal blocking?
Yeah, we did the HSG.
And what were the results with her?
Blocked.
Bilateral.
Club tube.
It was
Bilateral
clubbing.
club tubes.
Okay.
So it would be the scar tissue blocking the tube.
Thank you.
So, and what could they do for that?
There's the other treatments, in vitro fertilization, yeah, you could have a surrogate mother, or, yeah, there's more treatments that could take place.
We were just focused on more of clearing out the fallopian tubes, or finding another way to get around the
Could her
fallopian tube.
tubes have been cleaned out from that process?
Yes.
Yeah. Not the IVF though.
Although, even if they do get that process, that procedure done, there is a chance that the scar tissue can regrow back. So you might only have a temporary time window to get for the egg to pass through.
And she couldn't tell, I mean, she wasn't in any pain, right?
No.
So when you read, did they say you could see the scar tissue doing a laparoscopy?
Yeah, because they'll put the camera inside the fallopian tube.
That's what I
Also, Franco, what is a superfood?
Superfood, it's like really good food for you.
It contains.
It's pretty much in the name.
It contains basically all the amino acids, all the 22 amino acids that you need in a day.
It's like
It has several sources of vitamin, but as you know, vitamins, you can't have all sources of vitamins. But it is basically a very healthy food.
Available in America, or just?
Yeah, there's lists of superfoods on the internet.
I don't know what they are, but I do know that you can get them pretty much all over. They're like your raw fruits, vegetables.
Broccoli's a
and stuff.
superfood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Franklin, I know that the term left you, but you were referring to.
Pituitary gland.
Thank you so much.
I remembered it
Yeah,
once.
let's go with that.
Remembered it.
Let's talk that pituitary gland again, and I'll leave you alone, but I may ask Logan and Catherine. The pituitary gland. Can you give us a little bit more insight on how it is involved within the menstrual cycle, and specifically is talking to those hormones?
Very well. The pituitary gland has many connections with the bodies such as the corpus luteum, which we mentioned in the Jeopardy game. And if I might tangent off a bit on what the corpus luteum is, what it is that it's an endocrine structure, meaning that it releases its hormones directly into the bloodstream where they'll attach to the desired cells. And during the beginning half of the luteal phase of the menstrual cycle, that will cause a hindrance in the further production of progesterone and estrogen.
Thank you.
So someone said that the most common STD is chlamydia, is that right?
Yes,
The
that would
US.
be-
The
and
US
yeah, that's
is
in the
one.
United States, but yes, among men and women, it is the most common.
And it's also.
I don't know about that. I
Also-
would think it's the human papillomavirus, which is about 50% of all of us. Anyone who's sexually active has it. I don't
Never
know.
heard of that.
HPV.
HPV.
I think is the most common. That's all I would say. Is chlamydia is common, but I think HPV is
Also-
almost everybody.
We also took into account possibility of causing infertility.
Yeah, that's what I would say. It's the most common STD
Yeah.
that causes infertility.
Yeah,
That's
that,
true.
That would be more accurate, yes.
Yeah.
One more question I'd like to throw at the group, and maybe we can start with Keaton and just bring it on around and end up with Franklin. But you have diagnosed your patient, and you have available to you now a handful of potential treatments. If you were to make a recommendation to Georgia and to Robert of where to begin or which treatment to approach first, Keaton, and then the rest of the gang, where would you start?
As of what treatment we want to.
Yeah, if you could recommend a first treatment to try.
I would probably go with the IVF just because of its success rate or positivity of getting a child, I guess I'd say.
And what are you thinking, Chantel?
The IVF, I think that one too, because like it being successful and you being able to have it.
Katie? Which treatment would you recommend to this couple to begin with?
I would recommend that IVF too.
Uh-huh. Okay. How about it, Jacob?
The IVF.
Yeah, Ian.
Considering that they don't have as much money, I wouldn't really go with the IVF if it is a $20,000 job. I'd probably go with the laparoscopy or the thing that
Okay.
It's got a lower success rate, but it's a lot cheaper. So that's what I'm trying to say, considering their incomes.
Very good. How about it, Logan?
I agree with Ian on that. I definitely suggest the salpingoscopy.
Okay.
I
Kat?
agree. The salpingoscopy is where they should go.
And I was going to check, at least with the three of you right now, maybe we'll get it later, but do we know what our success rate is on average with that procedure?
Well, since the procedure directly removes scar tissue, the likelihood of her successfully having the egg go into the fallopian tube and to be fertilized is substantially higher than with IVF, where there's a potential where none of her eggs are viable or none of the eggs become fetuses. And it's so expensive, while a salpingoscopy just removes one problem they're having with their infertility.
Thank you.
Okay, and also for that,
Salpingoscopy?
yes, thank you. Okay, for that, but the only problem with that is the chance of scar tissue actually growing back in the fallopian tube. It would give them a time period for them to have a child, but if the scar tissue grows back, that would take out the time. They would no longer, they would have to either do the procedure again or a different procedure.
How long does it take the scar tissue to grow back?
We more focused on the treatment itself.
But
it can grow back in
as early as
few months to a couple of years.
I mean, the earliest that it could
Or
grow
never.
back is probably
That's why I said
anywhere
there was a
from
chance.
3 months. I mean, it's a large range, but 3 months, it could grow back.
Yeah.
Like in 3 months, there's a possibility that it would be there.
And if they get an egg fertilized and down to the endometrium and they don't want to have more kids, it won't affect her anymore.
What causes it to keep growing back?
Well, with scar tissue, it's not really alive, but it's just a tissue that is consistent and it covers up a wound that you have. So it comes back to kind of protect the wound.
Angelo, what do you think?
Well, in this case, we already figured out what Georgia's problem is, and it's club tubing. So I'd have to also agree with them. But in my personal opinion, if Georgia and Robert did have the money, I'd go with laparoscopy.
From, I suppose, a like more personal point of view, towards the couple themselves, considering they are both college students, I don't know exactly what year they are in, but you know, college tuition and whatnot. Given that HSG, like the treatment alone, or I mean procedure alone, it is proven to have at least a 30% increased rate of fertility over the next 2 months of the procedure happening. I would wait that 2 months, and then my other treatment options would probably be either a laparoscopy or possibly surrogacy, having a surrogate mother.
Thank you.
But, and then from a completely medical point of view, probably IVF or surrogacy would be my options.
Thanks.
I would either go with finding somebody that would be able to help you out with the Chinese herbal holistic approach, but that's because my mom's a holistic vet, and I find holistic to be successful in some things. I don't know about this one, but other options could be adoption, or if somebody's going to have an abortion, they can continue with the baby, and then they could adopt the baby over to you, and not necessarily fix the problem. You can still get a baby at a young age, or a child at a younger age to raise.
All right. Thank you, group.
Yeah.
On the holistic thing, do they tell you what kind of time frame that works in?
I don't know what the time frame would be, but for some holistic, there's this thing called EFAC that help with joints, and it can help within a couple of hours, but it's temporary. But if you continue with it, it could help pretty much forever until something else happens to it. My mom could probably explain that more.
Now, did you said, you're right, was it 86%?
82 or
82%. Yeah. I don't know what the success rate is all over, but that was one particular place that does this procedure. It's just the $891 kit. And there's probably different types of kits because there's so many different varieties of herbal medicine out there. But this is just the one kit that I found that.
And this is addressing the specific problem of scarring though, right? It's a holistic way to
I
get rid
would
of the
think
scarring.
it would be, yeah. I didn't actually
Because we
see all this
specifically
information.
have a problem there that you need to fix because it doesn't matter what you do if you can't get an egg to a sperm. So
Yeah.
it has to be something about dissolving the scar tissue. So depending on what the problem was, I think the packet would be different and have different success rates.
Yeah.
Well, and I would
Yeah,
also
but-
wonder about that because if it keeps coming back, there's still a problem. You haven't
Yeah.
addressed why it's
Yeah.
there. It's probably response to inflammation someplace.
Mhm.
And so my personal approach would be to look at why you got a problem in the first place and direct things that way. But then again, I'm holistic.
Is that what
So-
No.
No.
So do we have to choose just one operation for this?
Yeah, I was gonna ask
We
you,
wanna
so the
check.
hystrus salpingogram, were you, the HSG or whatever?
Yes.
Are you saying that would open the tubes?
No,
No.
that's a dye test that.
No, the HSG is the dye test.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, HSG, that's what I'm asking, that's
Yeah.
right.
That,
It's a dye test. It would not open the tube. It would
Sometimes
just.
it does, actually.
yeah,
It
it
does?
does. There's
Yes,
a
sometimes it
30%.
does.
If the dye's pushing against it, it's a
Sometimes
chemical
if you
thing.
blast it in there, it blows
Yeah.
apart the scar tissue. Actually,
Yeah,
that's why I was
Robert's
asking.
got
Yeah,
that
that's
blast.
why
Oh,
I mentioned
okay.
30% increase.
It doesn't
Yeah,
go
we
without.
tried
But, so that's actually the cheapest.
Yeah.
That's what you hope for, that's what you dream
Well,
of.
we
Your
did the
diagnosis
HSG
is
on her.
accurate.
She had bilateral tube overflow.
Yeah, so in her case,
It
the
didn't open.
With
Yeah.
no spill through of dye. So that did not solve it.
Is there any procedure yet where they actually go in through the uterus and then through the tube? Did you have to go all the time in through a laparoscope?
It's
Well,
Laparoscopy is through the uterus?
no, I think it was
From
through
the
the.
laparoscope.
I think it was through the laparoscope because it's done through a hole or a camera, which is
Yeah.
how they can see stuff. Because they're not actually inside. Because if you notice, they were cutting the.
Yeah, that
or
was
the
an
fallopian
ectopic
tube
pregnancy
out.
tape though,
Yeah.
not a scar tissue tape.
Oh,
Yes, ma'am.
When me and my husband were trying to have Katie, we were having difficulty, and we went through a lot of the testing and stuff, and they ended up doing a laparoscopic surgery exploratory, and found out that I had endometriosis. And what they did was they had, removed the lining, and one of it on my right tube and ovary, it was blocked with a bunch of the tissue. So they removed it and gave us you know, a couple months to try, and nothing had happened, so we went back in, and they found out that because they moved it, the scarring tissue had actually blocked the tube and ovary, and it had damaged it so much that they actually had to remove it. And then at that point, after recovery, they told us that within less than a year, if I was not pregnant, then they would have to remove everything because it was coming back. And they had told me that the scarring and the endometriosis was caused from hormone overgrowth. And so, luckily, within 3 months, we were pregnant, but I had to have everything removed after that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as far as like the scarring and stuff, I don't, the doctors had said it was because of, you know, the hormone overgrowth from.
Yeah, that's from endometriosis, but hers is from chlamydia.
Yeah.
It's inside the tube. Endometriosis tends to be outside and on top of it, or growing through the wall.
Is the scar tissue something that's critical later on in life? I mean, is it something that will cause any trouble later on?
Not if
It
you're
just keeps getting pregnant.
Yeah, it's blocked.
It just never comes back.
It can come back.
It can, but
Yeah.
You don't get your fertility back.
But it doesn't
Yeah.
have anything to
Just
do
look
with, it doesn't affect any other health issues.
No, it
No.
causes infertility.
Any other questions from our audience
You want to
today?
hear a good fertility story, though? Yes, you want to hear this one because it's right down Sarah's line. So, the obstetrician, which is the specialist who does this kind of thing, obstetrician gynecologist, was a gentleman that was training me, and he and his wife could not get pregnant. They probably tried 4 years, went through all this testing, couldn't find out a reason why I couldn't get pregnant, and she was from the wife, they were both Chinese, and her mother came from China, and she said, you have the bed pointing the wrong direction, move the bed, and they were pregnant within a month. So go figure. So I just think for all the science we have, there's a lot of mystery surrounding the whole idea of conception.
Well, that kind of going along with that, would there be?
I'm not sure which way she faced it, I couldn't tell you, but I can tell you that they had a kid.
Along the same lines of what she just said, with it, what are your kids' thoughts on the holistic and a possible surgery? Explain that one to me. Your thoughts anyway, on both of them, on doing both of them at the same time.
Well, if you could do both at the same time, I don't know how that works because one actually removes the scar tissue and the other one slowly breaks it up and gets rid of it more naturally.
But if it's holistic, wouldn't it be a natural approach after a surgery? Wouldn't it?
Yeah, you could do it after. Yeah, it could
that-
keep it from coming back, but you'd still have to probably find the source to stop it because, like,
Right.
if something's bleeding, you just keep on wiping the blood off, it's gonna keep bleeding if you don't stop the source.
But that would be fairly interesting to see how that worked out.
It'd be kind of pricey, but back on
Yeah.
And how would it, I mean, it's still cheaper than,
Then yeah, the $20,000
Yeah.
treatment. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be, I mean, what, $4,000 around that whole. Never mind.
And I
But
thought
if you're doing a
laparoscopy was
laparoscopy,
expensive.
yeah, $3,000.
Just whether to buy a house.
Audience members, students, thank you so much for this afternoon. Good stuff.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks.
We'll be coming to our other presentations.